by way of advice, to young filmmakers, how to film something that is recognized by the world in some way?
I would say, first off, learn your craft, right? Because I think craft is incredibly foundational, right, to creating a powerful story.
And sorry to interrupt, but when you say craft, do you mean just the raw technical, the director of photography, like the filming aspect? Is it the storytelling? Is it the acts? Is it the whole thing?
I think craft is more than just knowing how to push record on a camera or what lens to use, right? That's part of it, right? But I think, at least in nonfiction, I'm a product to some extent of having to know how to do it all, right? Having to teach myself how to do it all, because I didn't go to film school, but I became so enamored of telling stories through a camera.
Where was the leap, by the way, from theater to storyteller?
Oh, I just needed an extra class in grad school. I was in a MFA directing class, and I needed an extra class, and I just sort of like talked my way into a television directing class and fell in love with it.
And the actor became the director.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I wasn't an actor, but I had to act, and I had to know the craft of acting because I was in the theater. To work
Did you love it though? Did you love
the
acting?
Theater?
Yeah,
the theater. The first as an undergraduate, yeah. But then I learned pretty quickly that I was pretty bad at it, or at least not very good, and that my skills lay elsewhere, in more sort of behind the scenes and shaping a story.
When you started, taking a class, but also telling stories as a director, did you quickly realize that you're pretty good at this, or was it a grind?
That's a good question, Lex. I think I definitely knew right away that it was more my wheelhouse, right? And I think part of that was because I grew up in sort of a world of imagination, and I think that active imagination as a child really lent itself well to the skill set that a director needs, right? To shape story, to shape narrative, to shape performances. So I think it was a much more natural fit for me. Was I excellent at the beginning? Heck no. I think few people are, but I learned.
Where was the biggest struggle for you? So your imagination clearly was something that you worked on for a lifetime. So I'm sure that was pretty strong.
Books came from books.
But the actual conversion of you said shape the story. Where was the skill most lacking in the shaping of the story initially?
Technical side.
Just technical.
Yeah, because I taught myself everything. Right. Like, what kind of microphone should I use, right? What kind of camera? What does this lens do? What's that lens do? I didn't know any of that. And so I have been self-taught technically.
How do you get good technically, would you say, when you're self-taught?
Just doing it over and over again.
And what kind of stories were you telling? Like
I began shooting local commercials for
money.
For money, yeah.
So you're doing professional projects.
Yeah. And so I kind of learned on the job as I did it.
How many hobby projects did you do just for the hell of it? Or were you trying to focus on the professional?
Well, I was trying to make money, right out of grad school, just to pay the rent.
And that that's a forcing function to. I mean, I personally love having my back to the wall, or financially you're screwed if you don't succeed. Yeah. So that's nice.
I mean, I lived out of the trunk of my car for a couple of years after grad school, just freelancing. Just like. But that couple years really helped me learn fast, because I had to learn fast. So I did a couple voyages around the world for this group called Semester at Sea, that has a floating university where they go out 3.5 months at a time with about 500 college level students and about 35 professors. And so you're shooting every day for 3.5 months in like 9 different countries. And so that really was like instrumental to me becoming a pretty good camera person pretty quickly.
And you were doing most of the work yourself.
One man band. Yeah. The second voyage, I at least had an editor with me. Yeah, but I was shooting everything.
Yeah. What's the perfect team? Is it 2 people for nonfiction? Asking for a friend. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of interested in some storytelling, not of the level and the sophistication that you're doing, but more.
I think you have to allow the story to dictate what the size of the film should be. For these small human rights docs I do, I think 2 or 3, it means you work your butt off, right? Because you're doing everything, right? But it allows you to tell intimate stories and have that access. I'm doing a film this summer that's a scripted piece where we'll probably have 25 crew people.
Oh, wow.
So it's a completely different endeavor altogether.
But doing it yourself, what do you think about that? Even though you have that $1 trillion,
I have that $1 trillion again? Sweet. You can write that check before I leave, right?
Yeah, I will.
Great. I've never seen a check for that big. That's going to be interesting. How many zeros is that?
I write them so often, I've lost track. Or the United States government sure as heck writes them often. Okay, anyway, I mean, like, is there an argument, can you steel man the case for single person?
Not for me. Not for me. And here's why. What I've found is that by being a team of 2 filming with a field producer, by 2 people filming, it allows us to double our footage, first off, right? So we have twice as much footage in the time we're filming to come back with, as opposed to one person filming.
So you're each manning a camera.
Yeah, constantly.
And how much sorry to keep interrupting, but how much interaction and interplay there is?
Sometimes the director of photography is in another room filming a different scene if it makes sense. Sometimes we're cross shooting in the same room.
Yeah.
Right? It just depends on the needs of the moment. So we come back with double the footage is one thing, but as a director, so that's, and given how access is sometimes shaped by the events, so that we can only something, in Lifeboat, for example, a rescue operation may only happen three days, right? Yeah. So you want as much footage of that as you can. But the other piece of it that's really critical for me, I found, is that by having another human being I'm filming with, who I'm co-shooting with, it frees me up as a director to not always have to be shooting either. I can do all the other work to build relationships, right? To have side conversations with people, to sort out the right way to tell a story, right? Or to transfer footage, knowing that the director of photography is still filming during all that. So it frees me up to think of as a director rather than just an image acquirer.
Yeah, because there's also, I don't know how distracting it is. You've obviously done it for years, but setting stuff up, it preoccupies your mind. Like pressing the record button.
Yeah.
And like framing stuff and all that. That's still, that takes up some part of your mind where you can't think freely. That's
my choice, right? That's how I work best. That said, the caveat there would be that's not the only way to do it, obviously, right? Like one of my favorite documentaries of all time is a documentary called A Woman Captured, shot in Hungary by a single filmmaker with a single camera, with a single lens, right? And it's brilliant and powerful and moving and interventional. It's incredible filmmaking, and it was a single human being who created that film with a collaborator or subject. So it can be done. It's just not how I work best.
Yeah. How much personally with the other person? How important is the relationship with them outside of the filming? Like
with the director of photography.
The director of photography, say, like. How much drinking, and if you don't drink, whatever the equivalent of that is, do you have to do together? How much soul searching, or is it more like 2 surgeons getting together? Is it surgeons, or is it a jazz band?
Well, it could be either, right? Hopefully not at the same time, though, because I don't think surgeons and jazz bands go well together. Probably
they're both good. They're both good with fingers, I suppose.
Exactly, but I'd rather maybe not playing jazz while they operate on me.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I think there are moments of both, but usually not at the same time, right? There are surgical moments where the moment is so pressing, you really have to be that task driven, right? To capture as thoroughly as possible whatever's unfolding, right? But I think there's other times where you do improvise like jazz, right? And where you have a lot of choices ahead of you, and you're doing maybe a dance with the other camera person, right? In order to capture a scene as creatively and fully as possible during a fixed duration.
How much you said shaping, because it is nonfiction, but I feel like there's so many ways to tell the same nonfiction that it's bordering on fiction.
Yeah.
It's storytelling. And how much shaping do you see yourself as doing? Like, how important is your role in how you tell the story? I suppose the question I'm asking is, how many ways can you really screw this up?
Every day you can screw it up. I mean, that's really what you're asking about is really the ethos of documentary filmmaking, right? I allow a lot of things to guide my choices. One of them being, am I being fair, right? Not balanced, right? But am I being fair to what I'm witnessing?
Does the camera capturing in a fair way the truth of the reality? Some fundamental.
And it also speaks to consent, right? Am I being fair in a sense of consent? Do I have active consent in this moment, right? Regardless of whether I have a signed piece of paper. Yes. I always find some way to document it, whether it's just direct address to camera or, a translated release.
So there's actually, that's an interesting little. So they say something to the camera that they consent or they sign the thing.
Yeah. So for example, the large broadcast companies have this formalized process where they present a piece of paper, right?
Yes.
And the subject reads it and they sign it, and then you have permission, and that's irrevocable, right? So it'll hold up in court. That's not how I operate, right? And so it's just, for example, that doesn't work if someone's illiterate and can't read that piece of paper, right? And what if they don't know how to sign their name? Right. So instead, you have to have a conversation, ask questions, have them ask questions, come to a complete understanding before you even know whether they understand what you're asking. Right. And then in that case, if someone's illiterate, then you have that conversation, you just sit down, and it takes a long time sometimes, but you have to do it. And then if they still want to participate and they give you their consent, they can't sign a piece of paper. Right. So then you just do in their native language, right? Direct consent to camera in their language.
Interesting. But also you're speaking to the consent that's just a human placing trust in you.
Yeah.
You make a connection like this.
That's the most important consent.
Right.
Yeah.
I hate papers. I hate papers and lawyers because they exactly for that reason. Yeah. Okay, great. But you should be focusing on the human connection that leads to the trust, to the real consent, and consent day to day, minute to minute, because that can change.
Absolutely. And it does change.